Alright, so we are now on to step 2 of our pillowcase, and we need to roll up our main fabric inside of our border fabric. So I'm going to adjust my camera before I show you what I'm doing. So in the last step, we pinned the two pieces of fabric together. Now we're just going to take our main piece of fabric and we're going to roll it up. So I am going to start at this end of the main fabric, and I'm just going to roll it up. And I'm going to roll it up until I see the other side of the border fabric. So you want to roll it up, not quite to the end, but just enough to where you can now see this piece of fabric. Now we're going to take the other end, the other long end of our border fabric, and we're going to bring it up to these other ends, and we're going to pin along this line. So I'm going to get my pins. And same thing that I did with the last step of holding the fabric in my fingers as I pin them together. I'm going to hold my fabric together as I place the pins in it. So starting out, what you should have is already these two pieces of fabric pinned together. And now at the end, we're going to pin all three pieces of fabric together, or three ends of fabric together, I should say. So again, you want your pins to be perpendicular to this long edge. And I'm just going to keep pinning all the way down the long end of my pillowcase. Whenever you're pinning, you want to make sure that you do not get the rolled up part into the pins, because we don't want to sew that, because we're going to sew along this line in our next step. So now is kind of the hot dog image comes to shape. So this is the hot dog in here, and the border piece, this is the bun. So this black part, or my black piece, this is the border, is going to surround all of the border fabric. Excuse me, the border piece is going to surround all of the main fabric. Also, again, the little ball parts of your pins should stick up kind of out of the fabric like that. And whenever we're pinning these three layers of fabric together, I am going to put a few more pins in than I did in the last step, just because we're actually going to sew after this step. So we want to make sure that we have enough pins to hold it together properly so we get a straight seam. And I'm going to go until I'm at the very end. So I've got just a little bit more to go. So you should see all three layers of fabric on the end. And one last pin. So now, this is what my piece looks like. This is a really long rectangle. I've got pins all along this long edge. And before we sew it, I'm just going to take some scissors and I'm going to clip off any extra little threads that are loose on this edge. So try not to pull any. If you see them, try not to pull them. But ones that are already sticking out, you can go ahead and cut them off. It doesn't need to be perfect, because in the next step, after we sew, you will not see this edge, but you want to make sure you clip any that are super long. So you've got just a few more down here. And there we go. So now our fabric is all pinned and we're ready to sew.